Hi, ladies. Welcome to week number 1 of obedience. We are so pleased to have you here at Moxie Ministries. So, this is a 4-week study. We will be looking at the life of Noah. We will be looking at his unwavering obedience to what the Lord had called him to do. He's a man who spent decades building a boat in the middle of his town square. He was a man who forsook his reputation in order to please the Lord. When I first began to write this study back in March of 2020, there had been 1,353 deaths from the COVID virus. Currently, here in October of 2020, there have been 208,000 deaths because of COVID. This COVID crisis has caused us to lock down into our own sort of ark, hasn't it? I don't know if you felt that way, but I certainly have felt that way. While people outside our ark are dying, we don't know what tomorrow will look like for us, do we? No, it's been a very, very difficult time. Well, like the ark, many of our homes have become monotonous. The members of our household have gotten under our skin, at least in my house. That's how it's been. And even our animals have grown a little bored of us, don't you think? They're probably like, please go back to work. Well, I wanted to talk to you about our weekly song. What did you think about it? The blessing. Wasn't it amazing? So amazing. If you get some time, you might want to Google this song and look at the backstory. There's an amazing backstory to the song and how it was written and how that group of musicians came together just for the sake of worshiping God. And that song was birthed out of that time of just an amazing praise time. So as we journey together through this study, I want you to be thinking about the lyrics in the song. Don't just sing them. Open your soul to them as you sing them. Allow the words to bring hope for you and for your family. Because right now, don't we need a little hope? We've got COVID, we've got politics. Life is pretty hard. Lots of people I know have lost their jobs. They've had to close down their businesses. And it's a life right now, a time right now of kind of hopelessness. So I hope the song will lift up your spirits and bring some hope. So in the song, there are some words. Here are a few of them. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May he shine his face on you. May he be gracious to you. Ladies, do you believe these words? Don't just sing them. I want you to believe them. Because our Lord, he wants to bless you. He wants to keep you. And he wants to know you. He wants to show you his face. Is that pretty cool? That means he wants you to know him face to face like a friend. He wants you to know him. He wants to be gracious to you. Gracious means he wants to extend grace to you. His good will to you, his loving mercy to you, and his mercy. He wants to extend it your way. Now repeat after me. Take a deep breath in. And then repeat these words. God, I give you my mind. God, I give you my will. God, I give you my emotions. Come tonight and grow my faith. One more deep breath, ladies. Awesome. Now let's get started. I'd like for you to write the following words on your paper. If you take a little look in your handout, there's some lined pages towards the back. Write these words on the pages: righteous and corrupt. And then let those words just marinate around in your mind for a bit. We know from our scriptures this week that Noah was the only man on earth. That's right, the only man on earth who was righteous and blameless. This means, ladies, that Noah was without defect. He was perfect in God's eyes. Did you know that if Jesus Christ is in you, if he's in your soul, then you are righteous. That's right. That's a pretty big deal. Well, Noah walked in close fellowship with the Lord, and he had 3 sons. He had Ham, Shem, and Jephthah. Say that a few times. Those are some hard names to remember. Can you imagine Noah getting a little tongue-tied when he would call out his sons' names? Well, when God looked on the earth from his heavenly position, all he could see besides Noah's righteousness was corruption. So say that word with me, corrupt. That's what God saw. He saw a very corrupt world. This means that every single person was full of decay and ruin. It also means that it was down to the root. That's really, really deep. That's really full of decay. Think about what happens to a tooth like this right here. When it decays, it crumbles. I've had that happen before, and it is not fun. It crumbles, it falls apart, and if it goes way too long, the decay reaches to the root. Have you ever had that happen? The root is that part of the tooth which holds the tooth into the gums. If the decay rots the root, guess what happens? The tooth falls out. Imagine the Creator, our wonderful Daddy, looking at his children during Noah's time. Can you imagine how heartbroken he was to know that all he had created had gone to ruin? All but Noah. He didn't say it was just corrupt. No, he said it was full of violence. This means it was oppressed and full of cruelty. So God gave Noah marching orders. He said, hey, dude, go build a big boat, because he was going to destroy every living thing. Not just some things, but every living thing. And he promised in his talks with Noah, he promised to make a covenant with Noah. This covenant is known as the Noahic covenant. He told Noah to fill the boat with his wife, his 3 sons, and their wives. And he also told him to go out and get a pair of every kind of animal and every kind of bird, 1 male and 1 female of each of the species. He also said, make sure you get enough food for all of the people on your boat and all of the animals on your boat. That's a lot of food. That's when you would want a Costco, let me tell you. There weren't any Costcos during Noah's time. Well, I loved how God gave Noah a promise of safety for he and his family, as well as a promise of a covenant. I noticed God gave Abraham a promise and a covenant, as well as giving Noah a promise and a covenant. And we saw in Genesis 15 that God promised Abraham to protect him, to give him a great reward, to give him a son and many descendants more than the stars in the sky. And he promised also to give Abraham great wealth. God made a covenant with both of these men. He made the Noahic covenant with Noah, and he made the Abrahamic covenant with Abraham. Well, in Hebrews 11, both Noah and Abraham are mentioned as men of faith. It says in Hebrews 11, verse 1, now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. This is what the ancients were commended for. By faith, we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen has not made out of what was visible. By faith, Abel brought God better offering than Cain did. By faith, he was commended as righteous. When God spoke well of his offerings, and by faith, Abel still speaks, even though he is dead. By faith, Enoch was taken from his life so that he did not experience death. He could not be found because God had taken him away. For before he was taken, he was commended as one who pleased God, just like Noah. He pleased God. And without faith, it is impossible to please God. Did you know that, ladies? Without faith, it's impossible to please God. Because anyone who comes to him must believe, that word, believe, that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. And then it goes on. By faith, Noah, here's our guy, when he was warned about things not yet seen, in holy fear, he built an ark to save his family. By faith, he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness that is in keeping with the faith. By faith, Abraham, there's our other guy, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. Do you ever feel like that? Sometimes I feel like, I don't know where I'm going, but that's how Abraham felt. By faith, he made his home in the promised land, like a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him of the same promise. For he was looking forward to the city with foundations, whose architect and builder is God. And by faith, even Sarah, who was past childbearing age, was enabled to bear children because she considered him faithful who had made the promise. And so from this one man, and he as good as dead, came descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as countless as the sand on the seashore. All these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting that they were foreigners and strangers on earth. People who say such things show that they are looking for a country of their own. If they had been thinking of the country they had left, they would have had opportunity to return. Instead, they were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. Well, Noah was an amazing man. He was blameless. He was righteous. And God made a covenant with him. And so did Abraham make a covenant with God. So they promised to do what God asked them to do. And I want to ask you, is that something that you would be willing to do? If God came to your house, would you say, yes, Lord? So Noah, he also had to have been traumatized when God put him on a boat and shipped him off, right? Leaving behind every living thing. He had to have been traumatized. So take a look at our question and our artwork. Amazing artwork done by Maria Sylvester, one of our artists at Moxie. Big shout out to her. She's just a wonderful woman of God. And you will enjoy all of her artwork as we go over the next 4 weeks. But take a look at the artwork and answer the question, in my life, I was traumatized when?